Well, mate, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited about this brand new show that you've put together called DUMTECTIVES. Tell us a little bit about the show and how it's all come together.
So it's basically come from working with some of the cast members from some of our other shows that we have, because we've got three family shows, and we decided that the next step we would take is make an adult show that still kind of has the same, I guess, wonder and charm of the work that we create, which is circus, comedy, physical theatre. It has dance, it has puppetry, it's got a lot of adult jokes, and it's driven by narrative, which is kind of new as well in some ways. So it's got, high skill circus, but also narrative driven storytelling, which is really great. Set in sort of 1940s film noir. We've called it the DUMTECTIVES in Cirque Noir.
I was going to ask about that because we have a lot of film lovers that listen to this show. Tell us a little bit about what made you decide on that film noir setting, and are you a big fan of film noir films as well?
I can't say I'm a massive fan of film noir films. I do like them. I really like, I don't know, Sin City, if that kind of counts. But I'm actually a huge fan of Roger Rabbit, which is kind of making fun a little bit of film noir and having that kind of cartoon slapstick, which is what we sort of have drawn from as well. But also the idea spawned from the cast members, because it was a bit of a collaborative effort, and one of the cast members just really wanted to do a film noir. He really liked the idea of having trench coats and being a detective and finding ridiculous kind of things that we could do with that. That's kind of how it came about.
So how do you put together a show like this? Like, the idea was there to do a show set around film noir. So where do you go from there? Do you start to come up with the narrative for it first, or do you start to think about what skills you can actually use in that show?
Yeah, so it was really important to us that the performers in the show get to use their circus specialties. And so we kind of had a list of all the things that they wanted to do. So it's got aerials in it. It's got this thing called a rousseau, which is like a giant ring that you spin around in. It's got foot juggling, which is lying on your back and juggling with your feet, basically. A whole lot of acrobatics and acro, like partner acrobatics and things like that. So one of the things we do is, all right, here's a list of all the things that we can do and that we'd love to put in. Then we wrote the story. We said, this is the narrative that we want to have. And then we had to spend a lot of time going, how do we fit any of these circus apparatuses into the narrative? And that challenge has been really exciting for us, because it's not easy to do, and often you won't find that in a circus show, which is why there's not a lot of circus shows that have a narrative from start to finish. There's often themes or ideas, but to actually follow a storyline, it's because it's really hard to go, like, why are we juggling 10 of these juggling pins in the air between us? Like, how do we make that fit into the narrative? So it was really important to us to sort of work like with the skills and with the narrative, and spend a lot of time before we even started writing the ideas of how we could include them into the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really, really interesting, challenging, but I think we've done a really great job of it.
So what is that process actually like? Because for myself, I've always worked as a writer or an actor in theatre productions, and normally you just sit at a computer and you write whatever comes to mind. Do you actually kind of actively get up and try to figure out whether something physical will work in a scene at that time, or does that all come with rehearsals?
It's a little bit of both. So we definitely spent a bunch of time writing ideas. So both as like collaborative effort, but also individually coming up with ideas, especially because we were in lockdown for a big chunk of the writing process. So we'd started making the show about a year and a half ago, maybe a bit more. And we did a week-long development sort of residency in Clunes, Victoria. And we wrote a bunch of ideas down. And then we did start going, okay, we want this section. We've got an idea for this particular act. We don't know exactly how it fits into the story yet, but we'll get up and see if we can come up with some ideas. And then as a director, I'd be like, okay, let's try these other things. And that's evolved over the last year and a half to where we are now. But it's definitely, you do both. You have to get up and try things and see what's going to work, what's not going to work. And I'm co-directing with Claire Bartholomew, so there's a lot of sort of different perspectives on how it will work, and so you might just give the performers something to either make up, so you give them 20 minutes to be like, you're going to make this little 5-minute thing, you've got 20 minutes, or it might be improvise, and then we can give you feedback and then work on it and start detailing it until it is what we want it to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And that was one of my questions I was going to ask later. What is it like co-directing with Claire?
Claire's amazing. Yeah, it's a first time for both of us co-directing anything at all, and so we're just I think we're really good at communicating and having really clear conversations about how we're going to go ahead with it. But we basically take leads on things. So Claire might take a lead on something, on a particular scene, and I'll be there sort of in the background. So she might turn to me and say, like, "What do you think?" Or I might, if I have a really great idea, or I think it's a great idea, I might interject. But it's been like a lot of like give and take and allowing us to both use our strengths. So my strength is far more in directing comedy circus, whereas she's actually like a incredible clown and clown director. So that's kind of her strength. So we kind of play to our strengths a little bit, and then we do a lot of I guess debrief as well to see if we're all the same, make sure we're on the same page every day, and just so we have a really smooth rehearsal process. And we're not giving the cast confusing messages.
Yeah. Jamie, where did your love for circus come from? Because I know that you've studied circus arts here and in New Zealand. So where did that love for circus come about for you?
Oh, big question. I can't pinpoint it to one particular point. I think I've just always been interested in, I guess, tricks and skills. Like, as a kid, I loved magic. I went and saw David Copperfield when I was like, I don't know, I must have been 10, and I was like fascinated. I had a magic kit, and then in, I think, grade 6, I learned to juggle 3 balls just through some workshop, and then I could always juggle. And then as a teenager, I did random gymnastics classes because I was interested. Actually, before I even did that, I learned to backflip in the playground. I was like, I'm pretty sure I can do this just through my body, and tried to do that because I thought it would be cool. And then later on, I kind of got into, I guess, fire spinning and juggling. And I think I took a year off when I finished high school and went overseas and found my first juggling shop that I didn't know they existed. It was called Oddballs, and it's still there in Camden Town. And I bought a juggling hat, some juggling clubs, and a contact juggling ball. And I was traveling for a year, and I just was, in my downtime was playing with learning tricks, basically, and found that there's like juggling meetups, so you go to a juggling meetup and learn things. And then I was spinning fire as well, so I was performing fire, doing fire shows, and one thing just kind of led to the next. I just had this like passion and drive to learn skills, and I just kind of got sucked into the world of circus. But growing up, I was always I play a lot of instruments, and I always did theatre. So for me, theatre and performing came before circus, which is why I kind of really like the idea of integrating theatre and circus, as opposed to a lot of people that come up through gymnastics background or dance backgrounds. They are really about being told what to do often and using their skill, like it's all about the skills and less about the theatre, which can often change over time. But having come from that background of being on stage from a very young age, whether it was in a choir as a kid or playing in bands or doing musical theatre in high school and being involved in all those productions, and then having this fascination with circus and really wanting to combine the two together, is I think where I'm at now.
Yeah. And you've put on shows right around the world. Has there been a highlight for you for your career to date so far where you've actually got to perform somewhere and you've just thought, wow, I can't believe I'm performing here?
There's been a lot of moments like that, but then other moments take over. So I'd never, like a bucket list tick was just to perform in a Spiegeltent, and now I've done it hundreds of times. So it's like, oh yeah, I did that. I always wanted to go to the States, which we did. We went to America. I think we've been to 10 different countries. So it's hard to say like a highlight. I mean, I love going to China. It's really interesting how different audiences react to the work that you make in different countries, especially like in Australia. They just love what we do, and the adults, the grandparents, the kids, everyone's laughing, coming out, and they're really loud. But when you do a show in the UK, they're a bit more, they hold back a little bit, and you're like, oh, it doesn't look like they enjoyed it at all, and they come out raving about how much of a great time they were having. Sort of like, oh, your face didn't show it. I guess the strangest place I probably performed in is Bahrain, which is part of it was a Formula One race car thing. And we were out in the open just performing with the sound of the cars like going past, really loud, but trying to do this kind of clowning show. Didn't really do it. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to give you a highlight because everywhere I go, it's just exciting and different. We flew to Mallorca in Spain for like 2 days from Australia and back, done really strange things like that, which is exciting. I don't know what's a highlight though, because there's a lot. It's very exhausting to fly, to do a show, to come back that far. and not good for the environment.
Hey, you mentioned before that this is the first time that you guys have actually done an adult show. What was it that made you decide to take that step from a family show to an adult show, and how does that change what you guys are able to do this time around?
So it's our company's first adult show, so all of us have been involved in adult shows before, whether performing or directing or being involved, so it's not completely new, it's just kind of new for Dummies Corp, which is what we've mostly been doing for the past 8 years. But one of the big differences is that we don't have to think about, I guess, keeping it PG, and we can try anything and take risks. And I mean, one of the performers is a burlesque performer, so we've been able to put a burlesque act into the show, which you couldn't do in a kids show, for instance. I'd say there's a lot more dick jokes than you would have in a kids show, but there's also things like there's drinking and drug references and violence, and even though it's still slapstick, there's elements where you're a bit like, don't know if a kid should see that. So it just kind of opens the boundaries. It doesn't have as many perimeters anymore. And you can kind of go, is this funny? Will it work? You know, can we show a bare bum? Yes, you can. It just made it, I guess, a new challenge, but also a big part of the reason we decided to do that is because we already have 3 family shows with a 4th in the works, and it's like, you know, you don't want to saturate the market. You can't really keep doing stuff, so it's nice to kind of go, well, let's branch out and see what else we can do. And yeah, so it's really exciting.
Definitely. Now, for all of our listeners out there, we've got the dates and times and where you can get tickets from up on our website right now. So I guess to finish off, Jamie, what would you like to say to anyone out there who's thinking about heading along to check out this show?
I would say definitely come on out. It's going to be an absolutely fun night out. That's one of the things that we do, is you are going to be entertained. You're going to leave with a big smile on your face and possibly see some things that you may not have seen before.
Awesome, mate. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we cannot wait to head along and check out this amazing show.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
Not a problem, mate. I'll let you go. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the show.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
All right. See ya. Bye.